Just a little housekeeping before we get to today's episode. This will be the last episode for about a month. So taking a break through the month of January, and we'll resume either the end of January or the beginning of February. But this is episode 105 of Pausing on the Prophets. And today we are looking at Isaiah 14, verses 1 through 2. And Isaiah writes, "When the Lord will have compassion on Jacob and again choose Israel, and settle them in their own land, then strangers will join them and attach themselves to the house of Jacob. The peoples will take them along and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel will possess them as an inheritance in the land of the Lord as male and female servants, and they will take their captors captive and will rule over their oppressors." This follows on the heels of chapter 13, where Babylon gets what's coming from the Persians for their inhumane treatment of Israel. Now the prophet sets his gaze on sinful Israel. If Babylon, who has ransacked Jerusalem, killed her people, and taken off others captive, is overthrown, well then what will become of God's people, who have also been sinful? Well, the prophet says God will have compassion. Now this is not because of anything Israel did, but because of who God is. He will again choose Israel. You see, the promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob remains in force whether Israel responds appropriately or not. But now it's not just that Israel returned to the land. You see, the grand scheme of God's redemptive plans, in that others will attach themselves to God's promises. You see, this vision looks further into the future than just the return of exiles into the land under the Persians in the early part of the 6th century BC. It looks ahead to what will be with the advent of the Messiah. And we need not think of the end of verse 2 as Israel simply treating the nations as the nations treated them by enslaving them. We ought to think instead of the desire of the prodigal son, who knew that even being a servant of his father was better than any other option. You see, the nations will gladly be servants of the people of the Most High. One day, God's people will reign and rule as they were intended to do in the garden. What we see here is God's love for his people undiminished by the events of the world stage. And that is great comfort for the church, for those who by faith are, as Paul says, chosen in him before the foundation of the world, that we would be holy and blameless before him. We are called to be those servants who've attached ourselves to God's people. And in that we follow our Savior. For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many.